dangers of fentanyl. They have hit very close to home and in recent weeks, and it's more important than ever that we as parents, families, communities, and educators have the education and tools needed to keep our children and our community safe. Tonight, we're going to kick things off with a presentation from State Representative Klick, who is working hard to make sure our government is also doing its part to keep our community safe. Once she finishes, we will transition into a panel discussion, including some leaders within our community, and we'll open it up to questions and discussion on what we can do to keep our kids safe. Representative Klick.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me this evening. I'm your state representative, and I represent this area, and I'm also the chairman of public health. And so I, as a nurse, see a lot of data about overdoses and deaths. I think you've probably seen in the news recently that there were 3 students that died in a DFW school of fentanyl overdoses. And this drug problem is real different than what it's been in the past. We have precursor chemicals being shipped from China to the drug cartels in Mexico. And they're mixing up illicit drugs to look just like real prescription products. Xanax, even Adderall, which is a drug that kids frequently take for ADD or ADHD. And it looks just like a real pharmaceutical product, but it's not. It's got fentanyl in it. And the thing to remember is 1 pill can kill. The lethal dose of fentanyl is only 2 micrograms. That would fit on the head of a pin. Very, very small amount. I have friends that had an adult daughter who was traveling on business, and she took prescription Xanax. That's another drug that they like to counterfeit. And she had forgotten to take her prescription medication with her. And one of her colleagues on the trip mentioned that, oh, I've got one, you can just have one of mine. Well, the young woman took the pill and didn't wake up the next morning. And this, is all out in our community. And so it's so important for you to talk to your children to not take any medication, even if it looks real from anybody else. And if you're a parent right now and your child might be taking Adderall, there's a nationwide shortage of that. And my concern is that parents may try to go online to purchase what they think are pharmaceutical products, and it be these counterfeit poisons. I mean, that's what this is. It's poison, and it's killing people. And we need to work really hard to explain that to our children, that 1 pill can kill. And to avoid those situations, on your seats, one of the things I want to share with you is a website, a flyer that looks like this. You can go on this website and learn how to use Narcan or naloxone, which is a drug that will counteract fentanyl and other opioids. It's a nasal spray. It's very easy to use. The website has instruction in both Spanish and in English, and you just might save a life in learning how to use that. This particular drug, it's, as I said, very easy to give. If you've ever used a nasal spray, it's very, very simple. It's not very invasive to do that. The dose is the same for adults as it is for children, and you can't give too much. Some of the drugs that are circulating around in our community right now are very, very potent, and sometimes 1 dose of Narcan or naloxone is not enough. Narcan is the brand name, naloxone is the generic name. It's the same product, but depending on how it's packaged or who the manufacturer is, it may look and be called something different, but it's the same product. If you've got folks in your house or in your family, someone that might be dying of cancer, they may have opioid drugs in their home. It's very important that you watch your children. Those are legal drugs as opposed to illegal drugs. But there are legal forms of fentanyl. We use it for pain, for patients that might be dying of cancer. They also use it in anesthesia when you're at the hospital having surgery. Those are legitimate forms of the drug. What we're talking about is illicit forms that are not made at a pharmaceutical plant. These are made by drug cartel members, and it's coming across the border into our country, and it's killing our kids. The number of overdoses this last year went up, it doubled. And those overdoses, a lot of those kids died. So this is very serious stuff, and you honestly need to visit with your kids and tell them about the dangers of this. This drug, if you are familiar with morphine, fentanyl is stronger than morphine. It's stronger than heroin. So, it's probably one of the strongest products out there. They're even using veterinary forms of it for, like they would use to sedate an elephant. And that could be like 1,000 times stronger than what morphine would be for a human being. An elephant's a lot bigger than we are. So it takes more medicine to sedate them. But they're cutting some of the drugs with this. And, kind of what started is this started infiltrating the heroin supply. There were a lot of folks that were taking prescription drugs. They would get addicted to those prescription drugs, and they would no longer be able to get those opioid prescription drugs. Some of those folks, because they had become addicted, would go onto the streets and try to buy heroin. Well, we had a heroin problem not that long ago, where a lot of folks were dying of heroin overdoses, but now just about all the illicit drugs are laced with fentanyl. Even meth and more commonly known illicit drugs are also laced with this. But the big difference is now it can look like it's a regular pharmaceutical. They have the pill presses. It will have all the little markings, the numbers, the letters that are on the outside of the pill. It looks like the real thing. And I've seen pictures, and I actually saw DPS had some at the Capitol recently, and they laid some side by side. I'm a nurse by training. I could not tell the difference between the illegal substance and the pharmaceutical substance, and I bet you can't either if you were to see those. So do not take anything from anybody that you do not know came from a pharmacy, and be very, very careful about getting stuff online, because there are places online. Fentanyl, originally the folks in China were sending it via the regular mail, and it too looked just like regular medication, a pill. You've got to know who your source is. There are a lot of dubious folks online that appear to be legitimate. You need to really, really do your homework before you would purchase anything like that online from a source. So this is, as I said, all in our community. And as parents, you need to arm yourself with information and work with your children and instruct them to avoid this. Most of the people that are dying didn't intend to use illicit drugs, just like my friend. Their daughter had a prescription, a legal prescription for a medical condition that she had. She didn't know that she was taking an illicit drug. She couldn't tell by looking at it that it was an illicit drug, that it had been adulterated with poison, and she died. And there's so many sad stories like that, and it's important as parents that we step up there. Things have changed. The way the drug pushers are delivering these things to our kids is different. It looks like real medication, but it's not, but it will still kill them. Remember, one pill can kill. That's most of what I've got. Also on the back of this, if you were to run across somebody that you think might potentially have been the victim of a drug overdose, this gives you the steps in a real easy to understand way, what it is you're supposed to do to help that patient. And this, and knowing how to use the Narcan or naloxone nasal spray, you could actually save a life. And I pray that it's not your child, that they're not exposed to this. But one of the kids that died in one of the DFW schools last week was 14 years old. It's in our community, and I'm working on this legislatively this session to give law enforcement some additional tools so that we can be mapping where these overdoses and drug busts are occurring, and working with healthcare facilities to alert, like emergency rooms, that this is in our community and that they need to be prepared for folks coming into the emergency room. But, it's important, even if you give Narcan to someone, that you still call 911, because the effects, if they begin breathing again, the effects of that are short-lived, and they could, again, go into an overdose condition where they're not breathing. So it's still very, very important that you call 911 in addition to rendering other aid. So that's all I've got, and I don't know whether we have the other folks come up now.
Thank you, Representative Klick. I want to thank you for providing a platform for the International Leadership of Texas, IDEA, our other sister and brother charters and ISDs, providing a platform and an umbrella for us to all come together to hopefully mitigate this threat and provide a safe zone for our students, our families, and our communities. So thank you. I'd be remiss, though, if I did not introduce Representative Klick to you so you know exactly who's speaking to you. Representative Klick has over 40 years of nursing experience and has served as a nurse, nursing supervisor, and nursing consultant. In 2012, she was elected to represent House District 91, comprised of Haltom City, Richland Hills, North Richland Hills, Watauga, and a portion of Fort Worth. She currently serves as chair of the House Committee on Public Health and sits on numerous House committees, including Human Services, Healthcare Reform, and Youth Health and Safety. Representative Klick is also a mother of 4 and 11 grandchildren. Without further delay, Representative Klick, thank you very much for your time, and I will introduce the rest of the panel. If I could introduce Council Member, if you would join Representative Klick at the North, up here, Council Member Turnage, Scott Turnage. Scott Turnage has been a resident of North Richland Hills for 58 years, a North Richland City Councilman.
Not quite 58 years.
Not quite, almost though, right? A North Richland Hills City Councilman for 18 years, was formerly a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and has served on numerous boards and commissions over those years. He is also a small business owner and a proud grandfather of 1, soon to be 2. All right, welcome, Councilman Turnage. Chief Perdue. Next is North Richland Hills Police Chief Jimmy Perdue. Chief Perdue has more than 40 years of law enforcement experience and has served as chief since 2005. In addition to his role as chief, he is also currently the Director of Public Safety, which means he supervises the Fire Department, Emergency Management Division, Fleet Services, and the Facility and Construction Department. If that didn't keep him busy enough, he's also an adjunct professor at Dallas Baptist University. Welcome, Chief Perdue. And Dr. Diana Waters. Last but never least, Dr. Diana Waters has more than 15 years of education experience and currently serves as the Executive Director of IDEA Public Schools for the Tarrant County region. In his role, he oversees 8 campuses with more than 3,000 students, and he leads and supports more than 400 educators. Dr. Waters has a PhD in K through 16 educational leadership and policy studies from the University of Texas at Arlington. He lives in DeSoto with his wife, Cynthia, and has 2 children. Thank you, Dr. Waters. We're now, please, welcome to our panel. And before we get into a few questions, I just want to say thank you all for your time and thank you for your focus on this threat that's in our communities. It's impacting our schools, it's impacting our children, it's everywhere. So thank you for bringing attention to this and allowing us to be a platform for which to speak. I'm going to start off the questioning with Chief Perdue, if I may. Chief Perdue, I'm going to come to you, and you are involved in so many areas of law enforcement and on the front lines of this fight. How prevalent is fentanyl in our community, and what are you seeing as far as the drug ending up in our children's hands?
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. I appreciate y'all taking the time to come out and talk to us tonight. Unfortunately, fentanyl is very prevalent throughout the community. We encounter it on a fairly regular basis, both on the regular patrol and also in different areas that we have specialized investigations going on. We have not encountered so far this school year any specific fentanyl in the schools, either here in North Richland Hills or in Burteville ISD that we've been made aware of. I'm not saying it's not there, but we have not directly encountered it. Where we generally encounter it is out in the field when we're running either a traffic stop or going to a location where we suspect that there's other drug usage going on, and we'll encounter the blue, what's become kind of the ubiquitous blue fentanyl pill, has the M30 on it. You'll see probably some images of that sometime during tonight, and those are the ones that are the most prevalent. But as Representative Klick talked about, fentanyl is being placed into all sorts of drugs. The cartels and the different groups are saturating our public with fentanyl. It is coming across the border in gross amounts. And again, as someone from the DEA told me, he says, if you have a drug problem in your area, then you have a border problem, because the drugs are just flowing over to so much. So we do have them here in town. We are not have not experienced some of the significantly bad issues that some of the other communities have, but I would be remiss to say that we don't have some encounter here in North Richland Hills.
Thank you, Chief Perdue. Dr. Waters, we're seeing more and more incidents of fentanyl abuse use, and it's occurring in younger and younger people as it becomes more prevalent. What conversations are currently happening around the issue in our schools, and how are educators preparing for this dangers of this drug in our schools?
Thank you so much for that question, Marcus. First, thank you, Representative Klick, for your leadership and work in this very important topic. Thank you, everyone that's in attendance today. Thank you to my panel members that I'm so gracious to share the stage with this evening. In IDEA Public Schools, I would say we have not had an issue with fentanyl in our Tarrant County region yet. And I want to emphasize that word, yet. Chief Perdue just gave us some information that it hasn't hit us as hard as other places here in Tarrant County, but I would be remiss to believe that it's never going to knock at our door sooner or later as we continue to expand our region with high schools and older students and even some younger students. So as executive director, I'm doing what I need to do to get out ahead of this. And how are we going to get out ahead of it? Well, we have to make sure that we empower and we educate our parents, our students, and our staff. I've been blessed to get a grant in the amount of $250,000 for mental health from the Rainwater Foundation to support our students when it comes to mental health, but it goes a little bit beyond that. See, not only am I executive director of our region for IDEA, I'm also a parent of 2 children that attend the schools within my region. So I have a 1st grader and a 4th grader. And when we talk about this drug looking like candy or resembling things that children are used to having, that's scary. that's not just scary for me as an educator, but also as a parent. So some of the conversations and the things that we're talking about is prevention, being mindful of what the substance can look like. It's scary when it can look just like a piece of candy and you can't smell it or you can't detect it in the very beginning. So we want our children to be aware, we want our staff to be aware of the dangers of the drug, but also how we need to be mindful of even daily activities that students are doing. For example, not sharing food in the cafeteria. Can you imagine, parents? If a child has this in their possession in the cafeteria and they're sharing food, that's even more scary. So really having those conversations on how we can educate our staff, our families, as well as our students, but also empowering them to really take the necessary steps to be a voice for each other. Children would listen to each other a lot better than they would just listen to adults. So making sure that we have advocates on our campus that are in the form of other students to be able to try to help spread their word as well, but definitely being able to educate and empower them.
Outstanding, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Key word I heard there was awareness, and that's exactly what we're doing here tonight. We're bringing more and more awareness tonight as well as from this day on so people can mitigate this in the future. Councilmember Turnage, as a leader in our community, what are our localities doing to help get this drug off the streets and keep it out of the hands of our children?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm sorry we don't have, I appreciate the attendances here, but I'm sorry we don't have 10 times as many people here because this issue merits greater attention. But I salute you parents that are here this evening that care enough about your kids to want to be here and educate yourself on this. And I appreciate the Academy sponsoring this evening. This is not a topic we want to gather and talk about, but we can't bury our heads in the sand and pretend this is not out here. The city councils, my fellow council people across at least Northeast Tarrant County here, I think they're all pretty aware of this issue as it's going on. As Chief Perdue will tell you, it's a relatively new phenomenon. He was telling us earlier this evening that he didn't even know how to spell fentanyl before 2017, and now it is just the prevalent drug issue that our community is dealing with. So I think as council people, as elected leaders, we just have to depend on our law enforcement primarily to deal with this issue, and then we have to provide the budget dollars, the tools that they need for good enforcement. But you know, this problem is always there's always gonna be fentanyl if there's a demand for this. Chief Perdue and I were talking about this yesterday, and he said, you can give us all these tools, give us an unlimited budget, but if the demand is there, that demand is going to be filled. There are people with bad intentions out there that will provide this. So I would encourage everybody, just talk to your kids, and just, all of us parents here, we were all kids before. As we know, kids do dumb things, and short-term thinking prevails there. And so just talk to your kids, be sure you know who their friends are, where they're spending their time, and just emphasize to them, don't take any pills. Don't go to a party where they're passing out some pills. Don't take a pill from one of your friends. It may look like a pill that they've seen before that was legitimate, and it's just not. So thank you for being here. This shows that you care, the fact that you're here.
Thank you, sir. Like I tell my own kids, if your name's not on the label, leave it on the table.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Representative Klick, from the state perspective, are there any other information or any other tips that you could give the parents and the communities on what the state is doing to help combat this?
There are a variety of bills that have been filed this session, including one of my own, that we're marshaling through the legislative process. We are kind of disjointed in some of our reporting. You know, you've got local law enforcement, you've got federal law enforcement, you've got state law enforcement, and then you've also got the health side of it, whether, you know, somebody's showing up at an emergency room with an overdose. And we need to kind of bring all of that under one umbrella and use that to map where those problems are. And that can alert folks, hey, in the next community, you know, they've had a big fentanyl bust or some overdoses, and it will help us better strategize how to deal with it. We also need more folks working in mental health, because a lot of these folks, especially the patients, are not unintentional users that may have an addiction problem. We need more mental health resources for those folks that are truly addicted, to try to get them out of their addiction. And you know, I'm working on that too, as far as additional funding from folks trained in mental health. We need more Narcan. And we need more people knowing how to use it, because you may save a life. And it's very simple to do. You don't have to be a nurse or a doctor to use it. The handout I gave you, in 20 minutes time online, you can learn how to do it, and you just may save a life. And I would very, very much encourage you to do so.
If I can ask a question to Representative Klick or to Chief Perdue, we're talking about Narcan. In our area here in the state of Texas, how does a parent come to have Narcan?
You can
How
go
can
to
they get
any any drugstore and buy it.
Just over the
You
counter?
don't have to have a prescription to get it. It's available over the counter.
And there are many agencies out there that are, in our own schools, our nurses and our police officers are seeking to have at least 2 doses of Narcan at each campus that we have. And I know IDEA's got different things that they're doing to help mitigate this as well. So there are free resources out there. You just have to gain awareness, how to get them and where they're at, and then take it seriously. From each of your perspectives, what can parents do to support your agencies and keep our children safe? Dr. Waters, you want to start?
Yes, I will. Talk to your children. Educate yourself first as a parent, and then be willing to have those conversations with your children. Let them know that you care. Let them know the truth about what's out there. And don't be afraid to ask for help and support from local law enforcement, from your elected officials, or even your school. See, Representative Klick talked about some funding for mental health. I, as executive director who received some funding for mental health services, and school leaders, we have to do a better job of educating the parents on what we are offering at the school, but then also the resources that we can have to be able to help you at home. So educate yourself as parents. Talk to your children. Let them know how serious this is. And I'm going to steal that from Marcus. If your name's not on the label, keep it on the table. I like that.
Sir.
But that's very, very true. This is not the time, the day and age to experiment by just having fun. And then the last thing I would say would be, make sure you're monitoring the social media of your children. This TikTok and all this social media has made the job of the educator so much harder. So you monitor that. You have those conversations with your children, and you get out in front of it. You get out in front of it as much as you can.
Thank you, sir. Chief Perdue?
So I'd like to just say ditto and just move on, but I can't do that. But I would agree with everything the doctor said, is that in having those conversations with your children and being, finding out what's going on in their lives, being in their lives of what's going on is very, very critical. You know, I think back to, when I was a teenager or younger and in school, and we just didn't have to deal with a lot of the things that the kids have to deal with now, or the dangers, and we had our own things, but they just were not like they are today. And so it really requires parents to be more engaged, to be more informed, to be more educated. You being here tonight is a big step towards that, of educating yourself so you can have these conversations. So many times, particularly on the young kids, most of the overdoses that we know about, that we see and experience, people don't intend to usually ingest fentanyl, or even certainly not to overdose. They're doing it because it's either fun, or they think it's going to be fun, or they're going to try something new, or worse, as we've been talking about already, that they just simply say, hey, I forgot my Adderall pill today, can I borrow one from you? And they take one from somebody else, and it's not really Adderall. Having those conversations, yes, social media, I know my children grew up at the very cusp of social media, and they fought me, tooth and nail of trying to get into their business. But it has to be one of those things that you have to do. You have to know what's going on. You have to use the tools that are out there, because they will try to find ways to avoid you finding out those things. And then once you experience, if you were to experience those things, if you were to have an incident, know that your police department is here to talk to them. On a pretty regular basis, we will have sessions with kids that are going through challenges, or we'll talk to parents that are, what do I do, what information. We are here for you. We are here to help you do a better job of being there for your children, to educate you. So if after tonight you need more questions, we are here to help you, and certainly want to provide a service to you as a member of our community.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Turnage.
Well, I already spoke to that a little bit in my turn a while ago, but I would also add to what Chief Perdue said. At least in North Richland Hills, we have a couple of social workers on our police staff, and their job is community education, following up on situations where someone's had an incident that led to maybe a run-in with law enforcement, but to follow up with them. It's not just to get with them this one time and think you're just going to put the fear of God in them and they're never going to do it again, but people that are at risk that they can follow up and stay after, be sure they're taking their proper prescription medications, or seeing a counselor if that's appropriate. But we have those type of resources, and I think that's you're going to find that more and more in other police departments as well. But as the chief said, take advantage of these resources that are available out there.
Thank you. Representative Klick.
Chief Perdue's mentioning about social media, that can be the gateway that some of these substances come to your child. Not only that, we have a huge problem in this country with kids being trafficked. And social media is the gateway for many of those situations. You've got to monitor their social media, or better yet, don't let them get on it at all, which will be hard. But you will protect your kids by not allowing them to participate in that. So, you've gotten some instruction here tonight. I would encourage you, talk to your neighbors, talk to your kids' grandparents, tell others what you've learned, so that you might prevent them from having a tragic experience with their kids or folks in their community that they care about. And thank y'all all for being here tonight. It's awesome. Again, a Friday night that you've given up your Friday night before spring break to be here to get informed so that you can better protect your kids.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. Education never ceases, right? And we're all here to learn just as much as our students did. So thank you, panel, for your time. It's good to hear from the panel, and they've done studies and backgrounds, and they know where they're coming from, but we also want to hear from you. So we have a mic set up in the middle of the aisle there. If you have a question that you have submitted or you would like to ask in reference to the topic today, please go ahead and step up to the mic, and we'll address those. Don't be shy. Oh, here we go.
I always had to get the first one up there.
Thank you for your bravery.
Can you get a little closer?
Yeah.
That's better.
Because I feel like I've heard different things from different school districts, that it's maybe locked up in the nurse's office, or, you know, whoever might need it may not have access to it. And so I'm just curious, that's like completely allowed in Texas, no problems?
It is allowed in
Uh-huh.
Texas, but different school districts have different policies
Sure.
and procedures as to who is in charge of that.
Yes, and I can speak on what we're doing as a district. We are actually in the process of revisiting some of our board policies, and we're really looking at ensuring that we have them on the campus in a secure place, readily available for those that need them, and having trained professionals on campus that will be able to support when we have to actually use the Narcans. An issue that I'm hearing with some of the conversation that's on the other side of the argument is, well, if we have Narcans, are we promoting the usage of it? So we have some people that are saying, well, we have the Narcans, then kids are going to be more prone to want to experiment and use it because they know we got the Narcan. But I believe we can't afford not to have it. You have to be preventative and make sure you have a response to those situations and things like that too. So our district is currently looking at revisiting board policies to see if that could become more of a norm piece for us to make sure that we have that in place so that we can possibly save a life if we get in a situation in which we need to use it.
Because I think my background is I mean, this is my life. This is what I do for a living. I help in a Suboxone clinic at JPS. Sorry. And so this is all I do all day. So I talk about this medicine, and it's like a lot of times the Narcan is locked up somewhere, and so there's not time for people to get to it. So it's good to hear that it's in the schools. I think another thing is, I don't think that there's great resources for parents to like learn about this, because I mean, this is my background. So I have, on the medical side, we get training, we get all, you know, every kind of training that we get. That I talked to my husband about it, he doesn't know anything about it. I mean, I can't teach him everything I know. So I'd love to have some resources to like give my friends or parents or something like that, where they can just, you know, but I don't know, there's not really anything that I found other than, you know, Irowid, or, you know, because again, we have to sort of be one step ahead, you know, I mean, I don't know. So anyway, are there good resources that you maybe give out to your families, you know, the teachers? Like, I'm curious what kind of training they're getting, you know. And I can tell you some of the ones that we use, but I don't know. A lot of it's not like necessarily free. I guess we have people come out and talk to us, so I don't know if that's, you know, that's also part of it. Is I wish it was like free for everybody to get these resources, but I don't know what you guys have.
Yeah, doing events like this on a larger scale, of course, will spread awareness even faster. As I mentioned before, at our International Leadership of Texas, we are having all of our nurses, all of our police officers. Each campus has a certified police officer on campus. They're all being trained, and they're all going to have Narcan available to them on each campus at each of our grade bands, so K2, 3-5, and 6-8, and then high school, of course. So those resources are going to be on our campuses. I know our sister and brother schools are doing the same thing. As awareness increases, as funds become available, as more resources are put out there, from an education standpoint, from a community standpoint, we want them in every location as much as you do as parents. It's just building the awareness, being a little bit reactionary, because to be honest, a lot of these things we don't prepare for until they become an issue. And then we highlight on that and we react to it accordingly. Does anyone from the panel want to add?
Yeah, education is hugely important, and some of the legislation that I'm working on, that is a piece of it. Are you a healthcare professional? You would be a great person to volunteer to teach, people how to, to respond to an overdose if they're a bystander.
And it's not just like teaching about the overdose, it's just about teaching, I think, like just for them to identify what they're kind of like looking for, or maybe just knowing, I don't know, just understanding how the drugs are packaged even, or just how things are getting out there. And I think, I think it would be it would be nice if there was like some sort of almost like a PowerPoint you could just sort of send to
Sure.
every parent, and just, just to get people thinking about it. But
Right.
I don't know, I think it's so regulatory that maybe there's not anything like that. And I wonder if we can, or, I know for us, we sort of, the way we do our clinic is we sort of borrow from other states a little bit. We borrow like, okay, California Bridge is doing this, let's do this here in Texas, or something like that. And so,
Well,
but I'm not
you-
sure what we have in Texas maybe.
Some of the handouts that you've got tonight are handouts produced by TEA. And the one handout that I provided that has the naloxone training, and it also tells a bystander that may not have any medical training how to respond if they suspect an overdose, those steps. There are lots of internet sites that also have that. And, it might be a good idea if y'all do an email list to share that to parents and schools.
Definitely. I don't think there's any hesitation in posting those resources on our website too.
I wonder
So
if it was just like not approved, or like things have to get certain approval and such. but
I,
it's
I,
not
I
like-
would encourage you, where we send most of the people that ask us that question is to the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, their website. And there is an entire section on fentanyl. There's training aids, there's lesson plans, there's all sorts of everything contained in that DEA. So if you'll start there, that is rather than just do a random Google search, go to the DEA website, and there's a section in there about that. I do have a handout that it talks specifically about counterfeit pills that came from them that I'll have here for later. Everybody wants to have one of those. That's a good start to see what's out there. Specifically, to go back to your original question about naloxone, I know we're at the charter school, but in Birdville, all of the school resource officers carry it on their belt, so they have it with them all the day. So they're already having that. So, but you are correct. I was in a meeting this morning, and there were several chiefs that were talking about the challenges that they're having within their school districts or with their school districts of, do you have it? Do you not have it? We're a bit of a mishmash right now across the state of who has jurisdiction on that sort of stuff. So, but I think we're working through it. As it becomes more prevalent, you'll see us all coalesce towards the safety of the children. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
In addition to what Chief Perdue mentioned with the DEA, this handout here is an excellent handout. I read this before we got started tonight, and they have direct links in here for the Texas Education Agency that will provide you with more of the educational side and how the state is moving towards responding to this. But this is a great handout to take a look at, very parent-friendly, the way in which it has been written. But on that last page, just the different emojis that folks are texting each other, sending messages. I had no idea. I would have looked at this in my child's phone and said, well, she really likes snowmen, don't she? No, that's code for certain things. So this is a great handout, Representative Klick, a great handout that I would encourage each of you to take and to follow up with that DEA website as well as those TEA references they have in here.
Thank you.
thank you. Any additional questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Fernando Camareno. I'm a resident in Arlington, and I heard that somebody said that trying to fix a culture is more difficult than making or create a new culture. So I think one of the most, in the spectrum of the school violence, there's many points: drugs, bullying, stress, anxiety. There's many. that is reflects on the results of what we have now. But there is one tool that can break the code of silence between the teenagers or the people. You see, when you are in school, you know who broke the water fountain. You know, but you don't say who did it. Why? Because you're going to be the one who said it, and it's going to be consequences. But in the past years, I have been working with school violence prevention programs, and there is a tool where the students can inform anonymously through text message. So we're talking about technology, but technology can be used in favor of what we're trying to do. So knowing from the students their needs, their challenges, their fears through breaking the code of silence, I think is one of good opportunities that we have. Also, if we are not part of the solution, we are going to be part of the problem. So I think that if we make a campaign to encourage students to be empowered for making the students be the speaker to the other students, it would be more effective than if somebody of my age telling them what to do. I'm here because I'm offering also my work and my experience, and because I'm worried about the community and my grandkids that study here in Texas. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional questions from the community? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. As a dinosaur who doesn't do social media, and I appreciate this very much because I'm with you on the emojis. I see them. I don't really know what they mean. Are there any tips that any of you can offer on additional things we should look for in communication? Any buzzwords? Anything that might cause us concern?
This is one of those where nobody steps up, so I'll just start talking. I don't have any specific. There is a long list. I keep going back to the internet to be able on a good way that you can look on there and say what are commonly used terms or emojis that mean certain things. You can learn a lot by looking at all those. I think for the most part you'll start seeing patterns of behavior more so than specific emojis. Conversations that will occur about that maybe are out of place, that are not normal when your kids start hanging out with different people, when they start talking to not the same group, or you start the patterns change because most kids fall into a pattern, fall in a group, they stay in that group, and when they start drifting out of that is when you start experiencing that. There is, however, again, is the problem now, and because this insidiousness of these drugs that have come in, where people who are well-meaning, well-intending, that are doing the wrong thing, but those are just things that happen as you go through. But you'll see that exposed through their social media conversations. I just would, again, it's a matter of just checking it regularly and frequently, so you can see those patterns when they change. That's when you can start figuring out what those things are. So it's just such a wide breadth of information. It's hard to point out two specific things.
Thank you. And one more question. I'm just curious. I don't have children in school, but obviously I'm concerned about the community and friends' kids. And do the schools have prescription drugs administered through the nurse's office? Is that a requirement, or are they
Yes.
allowed to just bring drugs on campus? And
The process should be that it should go through the nurse's office to be administered to the student. Usually some students may have to take a prescribed medicine at a certain time of the day, and that is ran through the nurse's office.
okay.
So yeah, they shouldn't just be taking medicine or pills or what have you just willy-nilly. that should run through the nurse's office.
And that does go for all our school activities. Not only do you have the prescription, but it tells our nurses how it should be issued. If they go on a field trip, how it's to be handled, who controls it, everything. So it should not be, even cough drops should not be handed to the student outside of the nurse's office.
So if everyone reinforces the policy, that would greatly eliminate opportunities for someone to borrow a pill.
I agreed, but I think this gentleman kind of spoke to that. It's the unseen and the unknowns where we have to teach and educate our families, our students, our children to say something.
Thank you.
And be mindful of the music that your children listen to as well. I learned a lot of things just by listening to the music that the young folks are listening to that I may not have even been aware of. Some of the code words that are used in the lyrics of songs. So the music is another space to be a little bit more mindful.
All right. Any more questions? We're open to as many as you got. Come on, sir.
I appreciate it. I stumbled upon an excellent resource for this, and her name is Callie Crow, and her son died from a fentanyl overdose. And she has a nonprofit organization that's federally funded that does training and provides the Narcan for free. And she's done our school district, and she's done numerous other ones. And if anybody wanted her information, I'd be glad to share that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Thank you for that
Yes, thank you.
resource. All right. Go ahead, ma'am. Step up, please.
I have a simple question, but I think that is important. I just would like to know if this conference will be recorded so we can share with our friends, with all the people we know that for different circumstances they couldn't come to this conference.
Yes, ma'am. This is actually being streamed live as well as being recorded, and it will be posted, and we'll have links to it so it can be shared out across all of our platforms.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, if there are no more questions, I would like to open up to our panel to give any closing remarks, and we'll start with Dr. Waters.
Well, I want to say thank you once again, family, for being out here and participating in this town hall. Thank you, Representative Klick, once again, for your leadership in this particular area. When I was given the opportunity to come and speak to you all during the panel, I really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity because the building that we're in, I feel like it's full circle. I was the first principal for North Richland Hills, ILTexas, so this is full circle for me to be back, but actually be back in this particular space and place and be able to share some time with you all on this very serious topic. So thank you so much. Continue to educate yourself and each other on this topic, and I was just honored to be here, so thank y'all.
Thank you for your time, sir. Chief.
Thank you, Marcus. Like Dr. Waters, I appreciate y'all taking the time to come out here and to be here. I want to make sure that you know that your police department is here for you, that we will provide information for you if you have questions about things that you want to it doesn't necessarily have to be that you found something wrong. It's you found something different and you want to find out if there's something about it. Let us help you through that process. As an example, as I mentioned, I have these documents here that I'll have available for you. But one of the things that we experience, and this is not anything new, but I just wanted to continue to educate your parents, is vaping devices are the number one thing that we encounter here in North Richland Hills. In every school around, they are prevalent. They're everywhere. The problem is they're not just filled with inconsequential things. There are kids that put DAP information in there, marijuana, or you could even put fentanyl in there. I do have a few samples of what they look like if you want to see, because they don't look like what you think they look like. If you want to come see this afterwards, I'll be glad to show you what they look like and what they do, because those are the number one issues that we deal with. Yes. Also, because we talk a lot about the little blue M30 pills, because they're the ones that are most prevalent, the document I have shows what it is, but I was able to get one of our fake M30 pills that has fentanyl contained. I have it in a bag, well, sealed up bag, but if you would like to see what one actually looks like, so you can see how impressive the fentanyl is as far as the counterfeit method they do, I'll be glad to show you that. Obviously, we're not going to pass it around, but I'll be glad to show that to you if you'd like to come up and see that later. Lastly, I just want to thank you for your time. The fact that you're here, that means you care about what goes on, and we want to make sure that we can provide information to you as much as possible. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, I'd echo what the chief just said. Thank you for being here. It shows you care. And I would encourage you, spend time with your kids. Be involved in their life. It's, you demand to see their phone. Oh, mom, dad, whatever. But see it. Know what's going on. They live their lives through those doggone phones, but know who their friends are. Know the warning signs. And it's kind of like the signs you see at the airport. If you see something, say something. If you see something in the community, in your neighborhood that seems suspicious, call the police. Let them look into it. It's what they do, and you want to be proactive on these things. We have to try and get a handle on this extremely serious problem. Thank you.
You know, parents, you are your child's best advocate, and talking with them, sharing with their friends' parents what you've learned so that they can help their kids too, could very well protect your own child. It's important that you talk about this. Talk to grandparents, talk to aunts and uncles. It's kind of a scary time to be a parent and a kid with this poison out on the street killing so many folks. If there's anything that comes up that my office can help you with, my district office is just on they're at 820 in Roof Snow, and please reach out. We're happy to help in any way we can.
Awareness, involvement, and mitigation through communication. Those are some of the tools you can use to talk to your students, talk to your families, talk to your community members. If you just aim to communicate, awareness, involvement, and mitigation, we'll see the incidents go down. I want to take this time to thank you all for being here tonight. And again, this is such an important topic for us to educate ourselves on so that we can keep our kids safe and their futures bright. On behalf of ILTexas, IDEA, city, our representatives from the city, state, and county, I thank you for your time, for TPCSA, for this fascinating event, putting this together for us. Representative Klick for bringing light to such an important topic. Thank you. It's Friday night, and we're rolling into spring break. We asked the students to stay around, but they somehow disappeared anyway as they go on their break. Thank you all once more for coming and joining us. Please feel free to grab some food in the back. I ask that our panel stay around. We're going to do some interviews here in a little bit, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
These resources are also provided in Spanish on the side there, so we do have it in English and Spanish for you to take home. Thank you.